Well, Happy New Year and welcome back to Please Welcome. As we kick off the new year, we can't help but look back at the ride that was 2023. It was wild.
It was wild. 2023 was lit.
It was wild. We welcomed new clients to our family and explored the ever important mission of continuing to make our clients' meetings and events spectacular. That's what we do here at Heroic Productions. Please welcome also made a big shift last year as we moved the series from a studio audience experience to completely virtual. And we welcomed a wide array of special guests, including the incredible Amanda Brinkman last month. So if you missed any of those past episodes, you can find them on our website. You can find them here on LinkedIn. Please do make sure that you go and check those out because they're wonderful, wonderful guest interviews. As always, we want to be sure to thank our network of clients, our partners, our vendors, a wide array of ambassadors, and of course our families for being a part of the wonderful 2023 that we had. So now we are all well rested from the holiday, and we're starting off the year by turning the spotlight on some of the fantastic individuals that form our tight-knit team here at Heroic. And today we're sitting down with my friend, my colleague, Miles Kipper. No formalities here, just a relaxed chat, right?
Right.
Thank you for being our first team guest.
Absolutely. Kitty, thank you for having me. I had to travel a long way, up a lot of stairs to get here from my office.
Yes.
It's good to be on set.
Yeah, well, you helped us put this podcast studio together, so I do feel that it's fitting that you're our first team guest.
Oh, thank you. I did everything but the wallpaper. I refused to step in on that, so I appreciate y'all's support getting that ready.
That's right. We'll have to have McKenna weigh in on the whole wallpaper situation. So everyone, please welcome Miles Kipper. Miles, you have a key role here at Heroic. Why don't you tell us about what you do here on our team?
Yeah, absolutely. So since 2017, I have been the director of operations here at Heroic. And when I tell people that, it's like the vaguest possible thing because everybody's like, what is Heroic and what is operations? So
Sure.
what I like to say is that we have got a team of specialists. We've got a lot of people who are really good at what they do, and I am our generalist. So it is my role here to buffer the rest of the team from difficulties and complexities that make it harder for them to focus on their jobs. My main responsibility is making sure that when we have a show that the right gear gets there in working order and on time. So I manage our inventory, I manage our warehouse and shop team, our repair team. I do logistics, I do physical building stuff, security, IT, computers, phones, maintenance, and a little bit of everything depending on the day. You might find me driving a truck or loading a truck or traveling to be on a show site. It all kind of depends on what we're doing.
That's a lot.
Sometimes, yeah. It's been slow in the making, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I suppose. So it's probably been different things have been added on to your role as director of operations over time.
Yeah, exactly that. It's kind of the stuff that no one else wants to do or wants to take ownership of often. So like every year we kind of add another few lines to my job description.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, can we toss anything on? No, all
Yeah.
right. So it's
Yeah.
like 3 pages long these days and growing. But
Okay.
I've been really happy to be here for the last 6 years, 6+ years. I've grown a lot here. I've seen the company grow a lot, and I really value my time at Heroic.
So what does a normal day look like for you?
So
If there is such a thing.
Yeah, I don't like have a ton of normal
Yeah.
days because it really depends on how we're doing or what we're doing. We're a very seasonal business, so this month, January 2024, is extremely busy for us, which finds me working on lots of logistics. We've got 8 or 10 semis worth of gear headed out between here and the end of the month, all over the country, California, Atlanta, Florida. So making sure everything is set to roll on time and get to the right places. I've been in the warehouse helping them get gear ready. I've been on some client calls. A normal day could find me doing anything. As I mentioned, in the course of last year, I spent some time in Toronto coordinating logistics for one of the larger out-of-country shows we did. I traveled to Dallas. I spent some time on show sites. We went to DC. I've been to Philly over the years. A little bit of everything. It's never a dull moment at Heroic for
No,
me.
no, very good. I would love for you to talk a little bit about how you landed at Heroic? Because you've shared a little bit of it with me. We got to spend some time together in DC where we got to have some just different conversations than we
Yeah.
normally have here. And it seems like the path to Heroic was sort of winding.
The path to Heroic was sort of winding. So I am a musician's brat. My dad is a drummer, and I never really stood a chance of escaping the gravity of the live events industry. My dad is a local musician and playwright. He's had a fairly successful career and has played on some songs we all know. So many of my earliest memories are crawling around on stages or in rehearsal spaces with musicians and artists and bands around.
Yeah.
So from a very young age, I thought everybody was in the events industry until I was like 8 or 10, and then started working on stage in 2004 or 5. I started working with Sue McLean at the Minnesota Zoo for the Music in the Zoo concert series. And I grew up out there. I was there for about 10 years. I started in high school. I worked out there in the summers through college. It was the best possible job. I learned about the magic of concerts and all it takes to make rock and roll and events happen, and all the great people
Well, and
who work
what-
behind the scenes.
What a cool place to have a concert too, as you're sitting there. If any of you have not taken in the concert series at the zoo, how cool is it to be sitting there taking in music and hearing the lions roar in the background? It's just so cool.
Yeah, it was a really special job. I mean, I probably did 300 or 400 shows out there over the
Wow.
years. And if you hadn't been to the zoo, it's the Minnesota Zoo. They opened it up, and we would build a stage and build a roof and set up a PA and lights every night that we had a show, because in the day they used the space to do bird shows and animal
That's right.
shows. So we got very good at quick setups and teardowns, and we had everybody out there from Salt and Pepper to Damian Marley and Government Mule. We had so many great bands. Bruce Hornsby, Herbie Hancock.
Okay, so the first concert I ever saw out there was Kid Johnny Lang. Did
Okay.
you work on that one?
What year was that? Like, I'd worked a
have
lot
no-
of Johnny Lang shows, yeah.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what year it would have been.
Okay. Like, very likely I
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, the zoo was a cool thing. And so I was in college and working at the zoo, and I was coming to realize as I looked around that like rock and roll wasn't the real world. And that if I chose to commit to this industry forever, it would leave me a little bit out of perspective with how many things went. So out of college, I went to school for business. I spent 5 years in large corporate, and I just totally left the industry. I moved from here to Seattle. I moved from Seattle to New Orleans, and from New Orleans to South Florida, working for the same big Fortune 500. I filled many roles there, from human resources to employee engagement and field management. But by the end of it, I was very ready to come back to rock and roll,
And
come back
ba-
to events.
And back to Minnesota.
And back to Minnesota, yeah. So in 2015, I moved back up here and started touring. I started with a backline company. And backline, if you're not familiar, is like when your favorite band comes to your city for a one-off and they're not on a major tour. It's easy to get the band here. It's really difficult to fly with like a drum kit or a bass cabinet. So in every city, in every region, there are companies who rent instruments to touring bands or support local musicians with instrument rental. So I spent 3 years on the hair metal circuit and the metal circuit, touring all over North America for hundreds of dates a year, doing festivals and arena shows, and yeah, had some really interesting times on the rock and roll circuit. Worked a lot with Bret Michaels and Warrant and Twisted Sister and Firehouse and a bunch of other bands along the way. So that
You've
was
got some stories to tell. I'm
I have
quite certain.
I have a story or two from the tour days, absolutely. And in the course of that, I worked as a freelancer all over town. That's when I started working Heroic, actually, in our warehouse in 2015. My experience in corporate left me with a lot of process and operations experience and large warehousing experience. So I came to Heroic when I was not on the road to make extra money and fill hours in. And I did that for about 2 years before their former operations manager left. And they were kind of like, hey, didn't you do operations for a long time? And I was like, no, I don't. And so here I am 6 years later.
Yeah.
It's been a journey.
So along that journey, was there a pivotal moment or a particular experience that you had that spoke to you in any certain way that said, yes, this is the industry for me. This is what I want to be doing?
Sure. I mean, there was a few, and I think like it really started when I left the industry in my 5-year hiatus from events. I was really lucky in corporate, and I got to do many of the things I dreamed about as a young man. I traveled for work. I lived all over the country. I had great trainings and dealt internationally and had great coworkers. But everything I did, it was kind of like, yeah, this is pretty cool, but like we could be making a rock concert or we could be making an event. So it was just kind of always in the background of my mind, whatever I was doing. Like I grew up on stage and I grew up an event person, and I'm used to the excitement and the hustle and the grind. And I really wanted to come back.
Yeah.
So after 5 years of weighing those options, I did decide to make the jump back to events. And then the course of freelancing for 3 years of like not knowing exactly what I was going to do and not having a great plan when I moved back here. And in 2017 is when things really kind of came together for me, and I was managing the stage crew at the Minnesota Zoo, and I was working at Paisley Park after Prince's death and on the Prince festivals that were going on, and I was at the where was I? I worked at Pantages, and I worked at the theater, the First Ave venue in St. Paul, which is slipping my mind right now, the Palace, and just kind of all over the place. And it was really like, you know what, this is my chosen profession. Events is what I do, and I am a rock and roll and event person. This is what I'm good at, and I'm not going to pursue anything else.
Yeah. So I love asking people about, what drives them. I guess in this conversation we can call it a mantra.
Sure.
How would you describe your mantra?
Sure. So my mantra might strike a little weird, but it's only drudgery if you make it. And this for me, it's like we all make these choices. It's a choice for me to be here. It's a choice for me to be working the industry I do. It's a choice to work the hours. And in events, corporate or rock and roll, like it can get really grueling, and you can be on show site for many days, and you can work 80-hour weeks. And if you let it, it can be very, very difficult, and it can really weigh down on you. But also, like, if you can take a step back and realize what you're part of, the opportunity to take many thousands of people sometimes away from their normal life experiences, even just for a day or two, and let them come feel the magic and the experience of like what a well-produced event, a well-produced concert does, like that's really special.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's drudgery if you make it, and that applies to some of my other personal hobbies as well. So it's all about choices.
Yeah. Yes, we're excited to share those other hobbies as well. So I love that one, and especially for our industry, because it can be exhausting, and the life on the road can be exhausting. But it's true, if you love what you do, if you're making a living doing what you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. And that seems to just sort of exude from you, I think. So you truly do love what you do.
I do. I like what I
Yeah.
do. I like events. I like supporting our team. This has been the life I've known and been most happy in, and I'm
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
Yeah. And certainly that's not to say that there aren't tough days and bad moments and things like that.
Never had a
But-
bad moment at
No,
Heroic.
never.
Never one.
But it's all part of doing the work that we
Yeah.
do.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's all part of it. Events, we're not in a normal 9 to 5 industry. We're not in an industry where you can afford at a high level to not do things because they're not your job. We're a small team, and especially on an event site, when things need to get done, they need to get done. And if you have the ability and the bandwidth to do it, like you should be the one doing them, as long as you know what you're doing and you're trusted. But
Yeah.
yeah,
One of the reasons that we wanted to have you sit in this seat today is that we do want more people to know and know about Miles. We affectionately around here, as we've been getting ready for today, we've been calling this the Meet Miles session, because you're actually adding one more thing to your role here at Heroic. And it's not just going to be adding, but you're actually going to be transitioning some of the operational roles and responsibilities off, and you are moving into a sales role.
I am.
So how do you feel about that? Are you scared? Are you excited?
Yes, all of
Yeah.
that. So about September of last year, which is getting farther and farther away, we started the transition from me as the director of operations 100% to director of operations and as sales account manager, sales enablement manager. So yeah, working very closely with Kitty to be more of a face of Heroic. I've been at the company a while, and I know what we do. I know our values. I know our value proposition. I know how to talk about us. I like
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
this is a good evolution for me in challenge and roles here. As you said, I am handing off many of my operational responsibilities, which has been a little slow and a little odd at times because I've had so many of the keys for everything for the last 5 years, but we've got a really good team in place.
Yeah.
I'm slowly transitioning away and building my own book of business here. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm using this time to talk to everybody I know in the events industry and everybody I'd like to know in the events industry. And it's been good so far.
Yeah. Well, and I think that because of your history and just the length of time that you've been here at Heroic, I think you'll be very successful in a business development role because you know the ins and outs of everything here and how we deliver what we deliver to our clients. So I'm excited about working with you.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a strength. You know, I've been involved with so much of the process here, and I'm so intimately familiar with our capabilities internally and the people that we partner with, the freelancers, the company, the creatives, that I know what we do. I know what we're capable of doing. I know how we're going to deliver it, and I'm confident that we can deliver it. So in a sales role, I'm not in a position where I'm going to have to overpromise. Like I know what we can do, and I'm very comfortable saying
Yes.
yes or no.
Yeah. Oh, that confidence is so helpful in the role that you're moving into. I would like to speak a little bit to the people out there who might be tuning in right now or people who will be watching this in replay about the events industry in general. So, as we came out of the pandemic, we saw a lot of people leave
We did.
the industry for a variety of reasons. Either they were, choosing to retire, or they were moving into other industries. Because I mean, we all know that it was pretty devastating to the in-person events industry. But we need more people to come into the industry, and certainly people are. We're seeing people come out of college excited about moving into the events industry and into marketing. The meetings and events lives under the umbrella of marketing. So what advice would you give to people who are looking at meetings and events as a career path?
Sure. I think the first advice I would give people is to like be realistic with the expectations here. This is not a 9 to 5 career path. So if you're choosing to come into this line of work, you need to be prepared to kind of be a hustler and be a grinder. You're going to work long hours. You're going to work long days. You're going to do things you don't want to do sometimes, but you're also going to have opportunities that most people will never have, to the point when they become casual, when hanging out with world-class speakers or executives of the largest companies in the world, being on tour buses, being in support of rock and roll, being around politicians and royalty. Like, it's all kind of becomes part of the in and outs for what we do, which is beautiful and cool, but you have to work to get there. So my advice is, if you're looking to come into this industry, like, be curious and be humble. As you start getting your feet in the door, as you start building your reputation, you're going to have to, depending on your education, depending on what you want to do, if you want to, I always start, like, even if you want to plan and be a high-level meeting planner, you should start low on the totem pole so you can learn what it takes from every level to put an event together. The physical execution, the marketing, the logistics, the planning, the project management, like, all of those play a role here. And there are little pieces you need to learn along the way. So in your town, in our town, like, if you're looking to get in the industry, like, call us. We are always in need of additional labor hands. We staff events all over the country. We staff events all over the state. It's hard to find good people, and these relationships take time to build. So find Heroic or Heroic in your industry or your market and reach out, introduce yourself. Also look to the unions that are in most major cities. We've got a robust stagehands union, which would give you the chance to see many different parts of this event world, from meetings to concerts to everything in between. You can figure out what appeals to you, even experiential events, which are pretty amazing and really fun to be a part of. So that would be my advice. Be curious, be humble, say yes.
Yeah, good advice. It is, I would put it into the category of a fairly non-traditional job. And so, I'm hoping that our education system is guiding young people into jobs and careers that aren't just the traditional. You know, we can tend to, we talk to kids when they're little and we say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I want to be a fireman, I want to be a doctor, so we see these very traditional roles that we all know about. And I think it's incredible to be able to bring a young person in and open their eyes to this pretty cool, as you've just described, a very cool industry, and vibrant and creative and energetic. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't even know that exists.
Yeah, I mean, this is a trade. This
Yeah.
is a trade. We have very skilled technicians, audio, video, lighting, graphics, camera operators, prompter operators, show callers, producers, executive producers, all these people who, like, this is what they've done their whole lives, and they've spent years or decades building this skill set. They're very good at it. It's very specialized, and once you have the knowledge, you can apply it
Yes.
to events
True.
anywhere in the world.
Very good.
Events are worldwide. I mean, I think there's 1.8 million events in the U.S. alone annually. So something like 3,500 events a day, which
It's crazy.
it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And we're just looking to get a small piece of that.
Right.
But that encompasses so much, and there's so much opportunity
Yeah.
and so many ways you can go.
Yeah. So I find that people who work in this industry have pretty interesting outside activities
Sure.
as well. And you have a few of them. We would love to hear a little bit about what you do when you're outside of Heroic.
Sure. So I spend a lot of time outside of Heroic volunteering. For one, I work with a few cool local nonprofits. One of the ones I've been most excited about lately is called Be the Change Minnesota, and we work with students and families in North Minneapolis to work on providing access and education. So we recently did an event for about 2,400 people. It was 1,600 kids between first and fifth grade out of 3 elementary schools over north, and 800 of their parents. We had them at the Mall of America. The mall donated Nickelodeon Universe to us for 3 hours, so we had like a closed private party with support of the Vikings and the Timberwolves and the police department and the fire department, and a number of senators and state reps were there. So that was a really cool event. But when I'm not doing events, I sit on a board for a nonprofit focused on distance skateboarding, which is the most oddball and niche endurance sport that there is in the world. I've got a pretty strong network of people like all over the place, and we get together and ride our skateboards to cool locations. Last year in June, me and a team of 3 others did a relay transit of the United States. We started in Virginia and ended in Oregon. It took us 17 days,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it's not something I would recommend anybody do, but it was a pretty incredible experience. We raised some money and awareness for a really good cause, the Invisible Disabilities Association,
Okay.
and made some memories that I wish I could forget, but never will.
Before I knew you, I didn't even know that this was a thing.
Yeah, it's really not. It's not
Yeah.
much of a thing. It's just a few of us oddballs out there. And in the same vein, coming up in a few weeks, I am taking part in a polar expedition training course in way northern Minnesota on Lake of the Woods. So there's a gentleman named Eric Larson who is a very decorated polar explorer. He's done Everest, the North Pole, and the South Pole all in 1 year. And this year he opened up a scholarship opportunity for BIPOC folks who are interested in polar exploration and winter survival. So I entered a contest and won one of 6 places to take part in this 9-day long outdoor training course.
How many entries were there? Do you know?
Hundreds from all over the world.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things I didn't expect to win, and heard back like late on a Monday night a month ago, and was like, oh man. So yeah, it is one of our busier months at Heroic, and by the grace of planning and our lovely managers, I am able to take a week off and go pursue my dreams as a Arctic explorer that I didn't know I had, but do now.
That's really exciting. When you first told me, I said, "Awesome, we're going to be able to follow along, with your social." And then I'm like, "Wait a minute, you're gonna be off the grid
I'm going to be pretty off the
somewhere."
grid. Yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
be like on the ice at Lake of the Woods for the better part of a week.
Okay.
So Lake of the Woods is like in Minnesota. There's the little like bump in the middle that's mostly Canada. That's Lake of the Woods. It's one of the farther most northern places in the U.S. And yeah, Eric Larson says it's the closest experience he's had domestically to being on a polar ice cap with the wind and the snow and
Gosh,
the experience.
Miles.
So there's
Okay.
going to be 6 of us participants and 3 or 4 trek leaders taking us out with sleds and cross country skis and many layers too.
Please come back to us.
I will. I'll come back. Yeah, definitely. I'll come back. Maybe early if it's
Wow.
too much, but no, it'll be good. I'm into the kind of events where you got to test yourself, and this is probably part of the event industry shining through. Once you work enough 18 or 20-hour days on a festival site, doing endurance sports don't seem quite as daunting as they once did.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important that we share the unique personalities that we have on our team. And I love the fact that you work in events all day long, and part of your free time, you choose to work in events again.
Yeah, that was kind of not intentional. I find that as I get involved with things that I like, I often end up at their events and see places when they could be more efficient, or they
Yeah.
could use their resources better or make it more impactful for whatever stakeholders they're going
Yeah.
for. So I've been lucky enough to help a few really, really cool organizations this year plan some really impactful stuff. And over the years in my career, I've been involved in some really wonderful nonprofit stuff.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Also, we would be amiss to not mention my
We would be
our lovely
amiss.
office mascot,
Yes.
Kato.
So
Come on.
I don't
Come.
know if you can see
Kato.
here, maybe we'll be able to,
Come on. Wake up.
roust him.
Come on. Come on.
Kato.
He's a little tired.
So our office mascot is Kato. He's here with us almost every day. Come here. There he is. It's like, oh, now you want me over here. We couldn't get him out of the chairs before. He wanted to be interviewed. But so that is Miles's sidekick.
Sidekick. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's spent the last 6 years in the building with us as well, and
Yeah.
is well known to our clients and
Yes.
employees alike.
Yeah. And the FedEx person who, I don't know if it's UPS or FedEx, but he brings treats.
Everybody brings treats.
Yeah.
My dog is a little hefty because I can't get him to cut down on the snacks at the office.
Yeah, nor should he have to. All right, we're gonna close here with a couple of rapid fire questions.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. What is your go-to karaoke song, and have you performed it in public?
Certainly. My go-to for the longest time was Otis Redding's Dock of the Bay.
Okay.
Recently, I've switched. I've really gone a different direction. I've been singing Waylon Jennings. Are you sure Hank done it this way?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have performed this recently in public, and there's a clear reason I work behind the stage and not on the stage.
Well, there is an auto-tune app that you can get.
That takes kind of some of the fun out of it, right?
That's true. All right, what's the last TV show or movie that you binge watched and loved?
I don't actually watch a ton of TV, but I did recently watch The Bear seasons 1 and 2,
Okay.
which I loved. That was
Okay.
great. The cooking show. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's great. It's about a Chicago restaurant owner.
Okay.
Highly recommend.
Okay. Netflix, Apple.
I think
what?
it's Netflix.
Okay. All right. What is the weirdest or most interesting job that you can ever imagine yourself doing for a day, just for the experience?
I would probably be a firefighter for a day.
Really?
Yeah, there'd be. I've got a bunch of friends who are firefighters, and I think that we occupy a similar mental space of athletics and intensity. So I can see myself doing that a little bit, or a tour manager.
Okay.
But I kind of got to experience that, and the life on the road all the time is a lot.
Interesting. There are probably some significant similarities between a fireman and a tour manager.
Yeah,
Right?
the ones you wouldn't expect, probably, right? They're,
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Miles, thank you.
Kitty, thank you.
Thank you.
McKenna, thank you.
Our dear McKenna that is behind the technology today, always making us look and sound good. Thank you, McKenna. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll continue to do this. We have so many, all of our team members are amazing, and we will share them as we go through this year. You can reach me on LinkedIn and the email address that we will pop up here on your screen. Make sure that you have liked, followed Heroic Productions here on LinkedIn for more events, news, and stories. We will keep them coming as we make 2024 another amazing year. From all of us at Heroic, thank you for tuning in, and
Thank you.
we'll see you next month.
Absolutely.